Hello, my name is Hans Hanley, and I will be presenting the work, Machine-Made Media, Monitoring the Mobilization of Machine-Generated Articles on Misinformation and Mainstream News Websites. This work was done in conjunction with Professor Zakir Duremarich at Stanford University. Since the release of ChatGPT in November 2022, hundreds of millions of internet users have utilized the large language model to efficiently compose letters, write essays, and ask for advice. However, large language models, or LLMs, like ChatGPT, have also been shown to produce factually erroneous text. For example, following the release of ChatGPT, the website CNET, a reputable website that produces reviews for consumer tech products, was found to have artificially generated several articles on their website that were rife with errors. Furthermore, a recent study by NewsGuard has found that several specious websites have begun to use AI to rewrite and republish the contents of several high-quality websites like Reuters and AP News, without giving credit. This leads us to the question of how to measure the increase in this type of behavior at scale, and what types of websites are potentially using AI-generated content that may be riddled with errors. In this work, we present a large-scale analysis of the relative increase in machine-generated or synthetic articles from 3,074 news websites between January 1st, 2022 and May 1st, 2023. Our list of websites consists of 1,059 misinformation or unreliable websites and 2,015 mainstream or otherwise reliable news websites. From these websites, we collect 15.46 million articles and subsequently classify these articles as synthetic or human-written. Upon classifying these news articles, we perform topical analysis to ascertain what topics reliable and unreliable websites are potentially utilizing AI to generate. To begin, we note that while building our classifier, we take a conservative definition of what we consider to be synthetic or machine-generated. Namely, we define synthetic articles as those that are largely, if not completely, generated by LLMs without significant human modification. We further note that due to the lack of precision as shown in previous works of models being able to classify short text as AI-generated, we limit our training and detection of articles to those that are greater than 1,000 characters. To build our machine learning classifiers to detect synthetic content, we gather a training dataset built from previous benchmark datasets. News articles generated by GPT 3.5 DaVinci, news articles generated by the Grover News AI model, and lastly, a set of synthetic news articles generated by GPT 3.5 DaVinci, news articles generated by the Grover News AI model, and lastly, a set of synthetic news articles that we apply two common adversarial attacks against, namely perturbation and paraphrasing. For our set of human-written news articles, we utilize a set of assumed human-written news articles from our set of news websites from 2018. We managed to gather these 2018 written news articles while scraping our set of websites from 2022 to 2023. In addition to these news articles, we use a set of human-written news articles provided by the Grover News AI dataset and the Turing benchmark. For our perturbed dataset that we include in our training data, we perturb or alter 25% of the content in the synthetic articles to model when users slightly change the text of LLM-generated content. To do this, we mask 5-word chunks in the original text until 25% of the original text is masked. Upon masking, we subsequently fill in these masks using the T5XL text-to-text model. Large generic generative models such as T5 can apply perturbations that roughly capture meaningful variations of the original passage rather than arbitrary edits. This enables us to model divergences from the distributions of text immediately output by different LLMs. For example, taking an article about the solar eclipse from April 8th, we would mask parts of the article, put the masked version through T5XL, and output a filled version. When applying these perturbations to our set of synthetic articles, after the perturbation, we still consider these articles to be synthetic. We paraphrase our set of synthetic articles using the T5-based Dipper paraphraser, which is trained to paraphrase longer text. We again consider these paraphrased texts to be synthetic while training. Upon gathering our set of adversarial texts, as well as our original training data, we train a suite of transformer models, namely BERT, Roberta, and DiBERTA, on different combinations of this training data. After training, we subsequently test our models against a series of 6 test datasets. These include articles generated by TextDaVinci, a dataset of paraphrased news articles, a dataset of perturbed news articles, articles from AI Writer, articles from Article Forger, and the Turing benchmark test dataset. We note that we acquired the AI Writer and the Article Forger test datasets from Pu et al. Our best model a DiBerta-based one, achieved an average 0.979 F1 score across our test datasets. In addition to testing our models against the previous 6 test datasets, we further test them against a set of 1,000 ChatGPT paraphrased news articles and a dataset of 10,000 news articles from 2015 from a different set of websites than the ones that we scraped, provided by other researchers. We assume, for our set of news articles from 2015, that the articles were all human-written. We note that upon testing to get a low false positive rate of less than 1% on our articles from 2015, as well as across all the test datasets that we consider, throughout this work, we increased the DiBerta softmax threshold of our classifier to 0.98. Before detailing some of our results, I will note some of the limitations of our work. 1. As LLMs get better and better and more closely approximate human writing, detection will become more difficult. 2. Understanding what is considered AI-generated or synthetic is somewhat unclear. The definition that we utilize within this work, for instance, is fairly conservative. But for example, are articles that are half written by AI models and then edited by a human synthetic? 3. It is possible to optimize against transformer-based detection methods, and as such, any operationalized transformer model can easily be beaten. Lastly, 4. Our detection method is limited to long news articles, or those that are greater than 1,000 characters. With those caveats out the way, we now analyze the use of synthetic articles by our set of 3,074 news websites over time. In aggregate, across all 3,074 websites, we see that 1.07 of all articles published in January 2022 were synthetically generated. However, by May 2023, the fraction of synthetic articles went up to nearly 1.78%, a 66% relative increase. For mainstream websites, we see this go from 0.88% to 1.39%, a 57.3% increase. And for misinformation websites, we see this go from 0.39% to 2.22%, a 474% increase. We find that this increase further models the increase in ChatGPT error message found within the articles that we scraped. Looking at the number of websites that utilize at least one synthetic article within a 30-day time frame, we see that number go from 34.6% of mainstream websites in January 2022 to 46.6% of websites in April 2023. Furthermore, the number of misinformation websites that published at least one synthetic article in a 30-day time frame went from 10.4% of misinformation websites to 16.9%. Examining these increases within different popularity ranks using Google Crux data, we further observe that the increase is largely driven by low popularity websites. Looking at these increases over time, we indeed observe that the spike in the use of synthetic articles largely coincides with the release of ChatGPT. We perform an interrupted time series analysis to confirm this finding. See our paper for additional details. Finally, to understand the topics that misinformation and mainstream websites were potentially utilizing AI to write about, we deployed a topic analysis pipeline to classify our articles as being entertainment, business, health, US-based news, science, sports, technology, and world affairs. Looking at our set of misinformation or unreliable news websites, we see that a plurality of the synthetic articles concern entertainment and world affairs. In contrast, looking at the synthetic articles from mainstream websites, we see that the majority concern either business or sports. Calculating the odds ratios between the proportion of news articles on misinformation websites and mainstream websites topics, we find that misinformation websites had a higher odds of using synthetic articles to write about entertainment, health, science, and world affairs. In conclusion, in this work we find that while mainstream websites previously utilized AI-generated articles at a higher rate than misinformation websites, this is no longer the case, with the use of synthetic articles being driven by a small set of relatively unpopular misinformation websites. While there was an estimated 57.3% relative increase in synthetic news articles on mainstream websites, there was an estimated 474% relative increase in synthetic news articles on misinformation websites. Finally, we find that misinformation websites were more likely to use synthetic news articles for world affairs, health, science, and entertainment-related articles. Thank you, and you can find me at the following links.